Hello. So this is the demo video to show the how the scopes will be used within the Bexome application. First, I will show what are the scopes that are being accessed. I will show the application and corresponding application ID and the OAuth-Authentication client. And finally, I will show how the scopes are used within the app. So first of all, here you can see this is the Bexome project. The scopes that are being accessed are the fitness activity read, fitness heart rate read, fitness location read, and fitness sleep read. As you can see, a non there are no non-sensitive scopes used, and also no restricted scopes are used. So those are the only scopes accessed. So I will show you in the application how those are used. So this is the application. Here I will show you the application ID. Here you can see the Bexome application from our development at the Chair of Digital Health. This is the application ID. Here on the Google Service JSON, you will see again here the project ID from Bexome with the corresponding project number, and the client. So this is the OAuth client being used. This is the client ID used within this project, and with the package name same as the application ID. So the way that the scopes are accessed within the app, basically this is an application that is tracking behavior information from the user to later on develop a model that learns from the behavior of the user to generate suggestions so that the health behavior can be improved from the user. For now, the app is just gathering information. So as soon as the application starts, it goes here to the main activity. However, as soon as the main activity is started, different necessary steps are checked, which I will show later on, showing how the start of the application works. So basically, first, the application will check if the consent has been accepted by the users, because as this application is used within the scope of a study or different scientific studies, they need to accept a consent form about the use of this application and about the use of their data. So basically, as soon as the main activity starts, it needs to be checked that the consent has been accepted, that we have gathered user information, and then the participant has registered to a specific student study. So if the participant registers to a study, basically the study ID would exist. After those steps is when the connection to Google Fit is established. So in that case, it is checked if Google Fit has already been connected to this application, and if in the case that it has not connected yet to the application, it goes to start activity, to first start activity. So then in first start activity, this is the first start activity, it goes a very similar process than in the main activity. So here first, again, it will check if the consent has been accepted, otherwise it would show the consent fragment. If the user info has been gathered, otherwise it would show the user info fragment. And in the case where the get Google Fit connect, so if there has not been established a connection with Google Fit, it will show the Google Fit connect fragment. So in the connect fragment is where the scopes are finally requested from the user. So here you can see the different data types that are accessed and requested from the application, which belong to the previously mentioned scopes. For example, the fitness heart rate scope, the fitness sleep scope. And yes, basically those are the different data types that are accessed from the application. From here on, basically the very typical standard use, a fragment is shown, which later I will show on the start process of the application how this is. Basically, it shows a fragment with a text describing how Google Fit, what is Google Fit, why it is important to connect the Bexome application to Google Fit, and how the data is going to be used. So basically, this is shown in the fragment, and there is a button that says connect, so that the user, if accept, can connect to Google Fit. In this case, he would click here, and the Fit sign-in process would start, checking if the authentication permissions have been approved, and if it's not the request, it would request the permissions and show the user with the sign-in for him to select the account. After this was approved, the user would press again and would continue to the main activity. So this video will show how a user using the Bexome application grants permissions and connects to Google Fit. So this is the first start of the Bexome application. Here the user gives permissions to the application location, to the sensor data, and to the device memory. Location and sensors are used for the Google Fit API, and the storage is because the data is saved in a database locally on the phone. The user needs to disable battery restrictions, as there are a lot of background processes happening in the background that would be killed otherwise if there is battery restrictions. Here the users need to accept a consent screen, as the application is used in the scope of scientific studies. Here users need to provide information. Allowed the battery optimization, and at this point, for the users to start using the application, they need to register to a specific study, and to register to the specific study they need to have received a QR code that connects the application to the server backend where the data is sent and stored. So here I will scan a QR code to connect to the backend. And this is the screen shown for users to connect to Google Fit. So they will need to press on connect. If for some reason the user does not select an account and wants to continue, it is not possible, as the application needs to use Google Fit for the proper working. Here the user selects the account to connect Google Fit to the Bexome application. And the user will need to continue all the process of verification. After the connection to Google Fit was enabled, the user is now able to continue to the application. Here the allow all the time location of the application is enabled, as there is location that will be used in background usage of the application, so that permission is necessary. Within the application, there is no possibility for the user to see the data, the Google Fit related data that is saved. So those are the functions of the application, and there is no visibility of the data gathered. And here, finally, the the user is allowed to unregister from Google Fit, which was also described on the first screen when connecting to Google Fit. So in this case, unregistering would revoke the participant from the study, as well as cancel the connection to Google Fit. So here I'm going to show you how the data is accessed within the Bexome application. So again, here we are back in the main activity. So after the user granted permission to access Google Fit, this would be true, and therefore we would start with the background workers. The background workers, one of them is the Google Fit record worker, that is the one that accesses the Google Fit data. So here you can see this is the function start background workers, and as you can see here is the the worker responsible for starting the Google Fit, the recording of the Google Fit data. So here you can see that it is a periodic worker that is run every day, every 24 hours is repeated to gather the Google Fit data. So going to the Google Fit record worker, here you can see all the data types that are being accessed from the Google Fit record worker. Those are all the data types according to the scopes that access is requested, and only for read access. So the way that the Google Feed Recorder works, basically, as soon as it starts, it checks that the permissions to the account have been approved and tries to gather the Google Fit data from the last 7 days. To gather the data, the fitness history client is used, as well as the fitness session client. The fitness session client is used for the sleep data, and the history client is for all the other data types like step count and heart rate and so on. And the way that the data is accessed, so basically the data is requested from both of the clients, the data and the sleep data, and after this data was gathered from both responses, a fit data entry object is generated, which consists of the data types that are used and the fit data that was gathered. So the fit data entry I'm going to show you is an object like this. So this is the way how the Google Fit data is saved in the Bexome application. You can see it consists of a date, which again, basically the Google Fit data is sampled every 24 hours, so once a day. So here the date of the sampling day is written. Then we have the step count, distance, activity intensity, activity minutes, heart rate, move minutes, and go to sleep and wake up time. In this case, those are the data types according to the scopes, and then here also the sleep stages. So basically the way that each of the data types is accessed from the Google Fit data, basically from the response that we got from the clients in the Google Fit record worker, those are saved here with the fit data, and then those responses are accessed here, basically by getting the, for example, of data types step count data, get the data points, and then the corresponding value for each of the field, and the same for each of the different data types. So here you can see how the data is accessed from the response of the Google Fit API responses. And then the other only one that is slightly different is handle sleep data, which I will show you how that data is accessed. As the sleep data is accessed from a session client and not a history client like all the others. So here we go. Basically, this is the way that we gather the sleep data using the handle sleep data function. Here we access the session's response to get the start times and the ending times. Therefore, we save the go to sleep time and wake up time. And then here we access the sleep stages for each of the data points to be stored. So to show you where the data is saved, basically it is saved here on the corresponding folder of the Bexome application, which can be found under the application ID, which would be here the folnew.cdh.bexome, same as the Bexome ID, as the application ID. And then here on the databases folder, we can find the Google Fit database. That is the one, yes, where the Google Fit data will be stored. And has a format in the following way. So basically here I would go to the database that was stored in my phone, and here you can see the Google Fit data saved and that was gathered. So you can see date of when the data was gathered, the step count, distance, activity minutes, low intensity minutes, high intensity minutes, heart rate average, heart rate max and min, move minutes, calories expended, go to sleep time, wake up time, and the hours of sleep. So this is how the data is stored locally in the phone application, the Bexome application. However, this data cannot be accessed or seen by the user. And finally, whenever the user would want to unregister from the study as well as disconnect Google Fit, you would just go here and press on unregister, revoke from the study, and then the process that is happening in the background. This is on the study fragment, where basically
Basically, this is the study fragment. Here are again the same data types shown so that the account can be closed. Basically, when this fragment is started, we have the case where a study has already been saved, which would be here this case, where there is a study ID saved. And then here you can see the function of unregistered study button, where when clicking, what happens is the config client for fitness disables Google Fit. So it revokes all the connection from Google Fit that is connected to this application. And then if this happens successfully, then also the Google account is disconnected and signed out from the Bexome application. So that the user would need to log in again for next use of the application. If for some reason the disabling Google Fit doesn't work out, it will show the user a message and he would need to try to unregister again later. So this is the process that happens when a user wants to disconnect Google Fit from the application or revoke the permissions of his account to Bexome application. Thank you very much.